Welcome back, Blazer fans. Did you guys really think that we were going to let football spring practice start and not talk about UAB football at all? Here we are. We got a bonus episode for you, episode number 73, our UAB football spring kickoff episode, preview episode. And Steve, man, it feels good to see, the guys are about to get out and not start hitting this first day, but it's going to be good just to see those helmets out again. And hey, we also got a spring game announcement, an official announcement from UAB that the spring game in Protective Stadium is going to be April the 9th at 1 o'clock. So definitely can't wait to get out there on April the 9th. But Steve, it feels good to talk some football again, right?
Oh man, yeah. It's always good to talk football, and it's always good. I've always never been a huge fan of spring practice, but I do what I always do enjoy of spring practice is just seeing guys that get opportunities that might not have got as much opportunity in the fall, and because
Right.
there's going to be guys that some guys are out or limited or that type of thing, and it gives guys chances to show what they're capable of and kind of how much they've grown and that type of thing, grown physically and mentally and just overall, and so, it's going to be fun to watch, and I'm looking forward to that spring game.
Definitely. And before we get into some UAB football, guys, I know last year, normally before we start our spring football talk, we immediately throw out a schedule release, like kind of preview the season schedule heading into the spring. And Steve and I talked, and for those, let's just catch it. If you've been living under a rock, what has happened is UAB football and Conference USA they've officially released the 2022 football schedule. However, 3 schools, ODU, Southern Miss, and Marshall, are saying they're not going to play a Conference USA schedule this year. They want to go ahead and bolt over to the Sun Belt. And probably by the time you're listening to this episode, the Sun Belt has already released their schedule. And there's been a lot of rumors that the Sun Belt are going to have those 3 teams on their schedule. So things have been very interesting in regards to, Conference USA versus these 3 teams wanting to leave early. And, Steve and I have talked, we've talked, buddy, like, you can't blame Conference USA for going this route. Like, I mean, you got 3 teams, basically, your whole league's crumbling as it is, but these 3 teams wanting to jump ship early than what they're supposed to. I mean, it would look bad, honestly, if they didn't fight back. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all just posturing on both sides.
It is.
I mean, I think it's just, I don't know what's going to ultimately happen. I really don't. And we all got our thoughts on it, but I like that they did it. I mean, I know
Me too. Yeah.
There's been criticism and all that type of stuff, but hey, you have to, like you said, you got to fight for your thing, and whether you think you can win it or not, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's kind of it's
a show.
Okay.
It's a show. It's
okay. It's what we all expect out of life in Conference USA. You never know what's going to happen, and it's a circus out there, Mom, as they say, and so we'll see what happens, but it'll be interesting. I mean, and then if the teams move on, and then it'll be real interesting. Like what I mean, then it's a big scramble.
And that's why it's significant, especially for UAB too, because 2 of those 3 teams, Southern Miss and Marshall, were set to come to Protective this year. So if they do that all of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, we can't lose those 2 home games. So Conference USA, you're gonna have to throw us a bone, and I hope they throw us a bone. But I mean, hey, we're on the way out too, so I can't make any promises.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's so many teams on the way out, but who knows what's going to happen? And it's a shame that we don't know what's going to happen for everybody. I mean, it's a shame.
Right.
It would be nice for everybody that's moving, whether it be Conference USA, whether it be Big 12 to SEC, whatever it may be. Mm-hmm. It would be nice if we could just do it now.
Yes.
Just okay, everybody. let's just go ahead and move, but you can't. I mean,
No.
obviously you can't. I mean, but it sure would be nice. But it also, in the same sense, it also would be nice if everybody can't move, then nobody can move.
Yeah, I agree.
Until maybe the end of this season or whatever maybe. But I don't blame Marshall and Southern Miss, ODU at all. I don't blame Sun Belt at all. I don't blame Conference USA. They're all taking care of their own needs. And
Right.
you can't blame people for that, in my opinion. I mean, whether you think they should or shouldn't, you can't blame, you're fighting for your own thing. So we'll see. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yes, definitely agree. And that being said, guys, I mean, that's why we haven't done a schedule breakdown episode yet. We're still going to hold tight, at least for a few more weeks, and see kind of what happens.
Right.
But let's go ahead and talk about this spring roster, Steve. Does any, they just released the official 2022 football roster on UABsports.com. What pops off to you at first? Let's just kind of talk about the roster at first. What pops off to you?
Well, I mean, there's a couple things, the roster. The one thing that pops out to me is Tyler Taylor being on the roster. I think that's huge. There was he could have moved on and chose to take his, his final year, and that's huge. I mean, I think all of a sudden this linebacker core, which when you thought he was gone and you just sort of looked at it and thought, well, there's some holes there. How good is it going to be? And then now all of a sudden you've got him back. You've got obviously Noah Wilder back. You've got Deshaun Oliver back. You got Jackson Bratton coming in. An Alabama transfer. You got the Raynard Ellis, the really good transfer linebacker from Georgia Southern back. You got Reese Collier, a JUCO kid coming in that looks to be, his tape looks really good. So all of a sudden you're like, man, we got some pretty good numbers to look at there.
Right.
And so to me, that's one thing that jumps out. Grayson Cash coming back, and I'd heard he was going to, but he was a guy that I think he went through senior day.
He did,
yeah. And so he's back. I think that's a big thing, and it's good to see some of these names on there that they haven't announced yet, but officially. Jackson Bratton and Raynard Ellis are two of those, and Dexter Boykin, their wide receiver from UNA, was not announced before, and officially, and so it's good to see that. I mean, and other than that, I think there wasn't one. There was, and I, unless I'm just missed it, there was nobody on there that you went, oh my gosh, I didn't know he was going to leave. I mean, there was no shocks on there, where, to me that I can see unless I miss something. So that's sort of what jumped out to me, and then of course the whole quarterback thing.
We're gonna get into that.
With knowing that now, and we'll say it now, but knowing that Dylan Hopkins had the off season shoulder injury on his non-throwing shoulder, and it was an injury he played through the season with. So but he had some, he's getting that cleaned up, so he's not going to be able to participate in the spring. So now you give these other guys a chance. We're all looking forward to seeing Jacob Zeno.
Yes.
We're all looking forward, I think, to see Damon Stewart, the newcomers. But I'm looking just as forward to see where Lucero is right now.
Yes.
Where's he? And I think he's grown a lot as a player. And then Dylan Malhotra was a true freshman last year that they probably didn't really even get a good look at what he's capable of. But it's just because he was just didn't have a lot of reps. So he'll get a chance. And so that's gonna be interesting to watch. I hate it for Dylan Hopkins, but I do. I hate it, but I also like it in the fact that he'll be healthier starting the season next year than he was in the season this year, or really probably at any point this past year. I mean, because he had to fight through that, and man, give him a lot of credit for doing that. And
I'm telling you, man, and not even that, like being hurt or having that shoulder issue and also being sick during the bowl game, man. I mean, what just a hell of a facing adversity year for Hopkins. And and you got to say, like, yes, we're excited to see all these other guys, compete in the quarterback position in this spring, but you've got to say, like, that first rep, coming to that first game in September, it's got to be Dylan Hopkins at quarterback, right?
Well, the first game, I don't know. Going into fall camp. I mean,
going to fall camp. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry.
Yeah, going into fall camp. Oh, absolutely. And I think that's the key to this whole thing. Yes, we're really looking forward to seeing all these guys get a chance in the spring to see what they're capable of. Particularly, the two new guys, Zeno and Stewart.
Yes.
But what you can't lose sight of is UAB has a darn good quarterback returning.
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Hopkins by the end of the year was a darn good quarterback. So it's not like you're going into this thing going, okay, well, Hopkins was our starter, but I don't know how good he is.
No.
So let's see what these other guys can do. You're going into it going, we are secure that we have a darn good quarterback. Now let's see what the other guys can do. And I think that's a difference. I think that's a huge difference in this thing is you're going to be fine. If Dylan Hopkins is a quarterback, you're going to be fine.
Right.
Now, if say, for example, Jacob Zeno is, that means he's pretty darn good, because he's beating out a good guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like so I think that's kind of huge in this whole thing. But the other thing you got to remember is you don't win a job in the spring.
No.
Now you might move to the top of a depth chart at a certain position, not necessarily with an injured guy, but
or just move up in the depth chart.
You might move, or you might, you can show what you're capable of, but you win that job in fall camp. You don't win a job in spring. So you got to remember that too. And so we'll see. But I look forward to seeing those guys and seeing what they're capable of. I know the coaches are really excited about seeing all those guys on the field and seeing what they're capable of.
Oh, yeah. We're all definitely excited about seeing what happens on the field this spring. Now, and that was my question mark, Steve, for the offensive side of the ball was the quarterback. With Hopkins being out, like who is going to step up this spring? And I know in the spring practice, you just said it. It's really just about kind of locking down, getting your fundamentals in, getting ready, getting healthy through the spring. And then, go summer and then head into fall camp where things really start popping. And hopefully we can stay healthy this upcoming fall camp and spring too. But flipping it over to the defensive side of the ball, Steve, tell me if I'm overreacting, but I saw the official press release that UAB put out. I did not realize that Kelly Sanders on the defensive line is the only returning starter on that unit. I don't know how that slip. I knew we were, obviously going to miss some guys on the line. And we already mentioned earlier, you said Tyler Taylor's coming back, and we've got some other guys coming back. But as far as starters, I did not realize Kelly Sanders is the only returning starter. Am I overreacting by being worried about that? Or I'll let you talk me off the lid.
Well, I don't think you're overreacting being worried, because I do think there's going to be a lot of, I do think that's the biggest building area that this team has right now is up front, defensively. Offensively, a little bit up front too. They got to figure out who fits where. But defense up front, they lose a lot of good players. But there's still a lot of guys that have played a lot of minutes. You talk about starters is important, but you have a lot of guys who have played starter minutes at times, and have been starters at times. You're talking about, Fitz McWilliams. That guy's played a lot of snaps.
Yeah.
You're talking about, Michael Fairbanks. That guy's played a lot of snaps, made a lot of plays. Kevin Penn, Isaiah Forte. Both those guys have played, important minutes. And then, at the back, or the Jack linebacker, you have Kelly Sanders, and the other defensive end, you got two guys in Nakia Eason and Kyle Harrell who have made a lot of plays. Now they're more situational guys. So they're going to have to find that second guy that that was what was great about you got Moultrie on one side,
mm-hmm.
and Alex Wright on the other side, both big, strong guys who can get out to the quarterback plus play the run really well. So you got to have to find that guy, and maybe that guy's a newcomer. I mean, Joker Gill. Maybe it's Joker Gill. He's going to have a chance to spring short. Maybe Jalen Mahane or Jalen Mayala. I'm sorry, Jalen Mayala, the transfer from Indiana last year, who didn't really get much playing time during the season. Maybe he's ready. At the other one because he's a big kid. So there's got to be some guys that maybe Michael Fairbanks. He played that role last year. Maybe he's going to be that second one as a starter. On the outside. I do think and I do think there's going to be. I do think they're working on some. Both interior defensive linemen and an outside jack type linebackers in the transfer portal that they're trying to maybe get by fall camp starting. Obviously they won't be there this spring. Devin Manigault is another one that I forgot to mention. I think Devin Manigault has they have a really. He's a guy that could be inside or outside. But I do think there's a portal. They're still looking. Trying to do some portal work to maybe help that area. But, these guys that I mentioned, they've got a really good opportunity in this spring to show that maybe they're a little better than we think they are. And I do think you're right. I do think there has to be a little worry about that because when you lose that kind of production and that type of talent, you do have to worry. Mm-hmm. But I do think there's some pieces there that we might end up looking at this once this thing gets started in the fall and go, you know what, it's pretty good. So we'll see. We'll see.
Definitely. Well, Steve, is there anything else that we need to hit on? Just as far as
I think that I think that that's kind of the areas. It also looking at the coaching staff a little bit. We got
to hit on that.
Yeah, Nick Gentry is not going to be coaching with them. He's not on the coaching roster now. I don't think he's with them. I don't know, where he moved on to, but so that's the other thing about up front. Kyle Tatum's a tremendous defensive line coach. So they're going to be in good hands, but I don't know what they're going to do with the how they split up. Who's coaching the jacks or the outside guys? I'm not sure how they'll do that. So other than that, it seems just looking at the roster or the coaching roster, it looks to be pretty similar. Not a big change, but we'll see what happens with that too. And so there. It's always fun to see this thing during spring because there's going to be the one we have at the end of the the podcast that we do at the end of spring practice. I guarantee you we're gonna be talking about a couple guys that we had no idea we'd be talking about.
Yes, and that's what makes this so fun with spring ball
right.
And spring game and everything.
Yeah, because you'll see some guys, and all of a ssudden you'll be, they'll just come out of nowhere, and you go, wow, where did that guy come from?
You'll be looking at the roster and be like, who is this guy?
Yeah, and I do think there's a lot of chance for, guys that we know about, but that Fred Ferrier or Jordan Palmer, Tajon Palmer. Just guys that you know about, and that they're pretty good players, but they're gonna, they can take a step during the spring. Maybe a Zeus Perryman's gonna come in and show us what he can do at running back. Obviously we're in pretty good shape, really good shape.
I was about to say, yeah.
but you just never know when. Hey, you never know when he's going to twist an ankle.
That's right.
And so there's a lot of guys here. I'm excited to see Terrell McDonald or Malik Bryant or somebody at tight end that's going to take that next step, because that's an area that you're really going to need somebody to take a step. You're going to have to find somebody. You're going to see if there's somebody that can fill Garrett Prince's role. In the spring, and that's a unique. He had such a unique talent. He did so many unique things for that position. Is there somebody on this roster right now that can fill that? Or is there somebody in the portal that can fill? You know what I mean? Well, so you sort of see that this spring. So hey, let's tee it up and go.
Let's go. And another notable too, I don't know if we mentioned earlier, but Lee Witherspoon, on the roster for spring. So good to see him back.
Yeah, broke his leg last year in
Mm-hmm.
camp, and felt bad for him, and this is his second chance, second chance at UAB,
Right.
so his third chance, I guess, but yeah, so it's be good to see him, see what he's capable of, and we'll see.
Definitely. Well, all right, guys. We just wanted to definitely give this, a bonus episode just to, hype up the return of UAB football on the South Side with spring practice kicking off today as you're listening to this, hopefully, and ending on that spring game, April the 9th in Protective Stadium. So definitely looking forward to that. But we'll be back to give you guys some update episodes, on spring practice and how everything seems to be going. But stay tuned, guys. As always, thank you for listening to the podcast and help spread the word. Tell other Blazer fans about the podcast. If they don't know what a podcast is, just show them and and then hopefully they'll figure it out. But we're on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, pretty much anywhere you can get a podcast, and we're on YouTube as well. And if you're not following us or subscribed to our podcast, definitely hit that follow or subscribe button. But we'll be back next time. Probably talking basketball next episode, but we'll definitely be back with some more great football content. But as always, guys, go Blazers.